Hey everybody, it's Durger time. Thank you for joining me for episode 0 of a brand new series in a brand new game. We are here to play Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I've been waiting a while since the new game came out, and primarily the reason why is I've been waiting for a mod to be released to really take full advantage of the game. And thankfully, the folks over at the Real World Chronicles have finally completed sort of their, I guess, version 1 of the TEW IX database. And they went through, got all the nuts and bolts, went into the weeds to make sure everything is balanced and working. And they released it in early October, which is just in time because Scott D'Amore was ready to basically kickstart his actual real life promotion. And we're going to be playing him, obviously, as the owner of MLP, and we are going to try to take it from a fledgling little regional company in Canada and try to make it into a Canadian powerhouse. And so that's the goal of the series, and I wanted to just play something a little bit different and play a company that, one, I don't think a lot of people would be playing, so I thought it'd be kind of interesting to just kind of venture out beyond the typical, the AEWs and WWEs and New Japans and play something a little bit different, but something a little bit familiar, something like comfort food as we kind of dip our toes into the new game and get used to it before we kind of like go off onto the channel and do some more experimental stuff. And we're going to be trying to play this as realistically as possible. So I listened to a lot of interviews with Scott. I kind of followed what his process was, and we're going to try to sort of follow the core strategy, I think, of what he's trying to do, what he envisions Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling could be. And I see that in sort of a 3-step goal. So what are the 3 like rules, the 3 steps that we're following here? Well, step 1 is we're primarily looking to elevate Canadian talent. We are going to be looking in the Great White North for talent that maybe is not as well known and trying to elevate them. We're going to be taking on a lot of pet projects. We're going to try to build these guys. We might put them with, other guys and girls that are more popular from other promotions, put them in feuds, get them to be put over, try to make them stars, and kind of rebuild Canadian wrestling. I'm excited about that because that's actually going to give us an opportunity to play with a lot of workers that we normally would have probably overlooked in my other saves. There's people that just aren't really well utilized or well known. We're going to be kind of scraping the bottom of the popularity bucket in some regards to try to find talent that may be diamonds in the rough that we can take and elevate. Step 2 is we want to be the Switzerland of pro wrestling. Make it no mistake here, obviously the territory days are back. All you have to do is look at what WWE and AEW is doing, and you can see that the battle lines have formed and little companies have kind of formed on the side to take up the battle lines. And so you have, whether it's, NXT working with TNA now, or whether it's AEW working with New Japan and CMLL, you can kind of see that the territories are starting to form back again with companies that are having sort of their allegiances set. And Scott had talked about this in a interview, and he was talking about how the old Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which used to be sort of a Canadian territory before, I think it was purchased by WWF in the late 80s, but it initially was kind of a Switzerland of pro wrestling where they could have people from multiple different territories, whether it was, the McMahon's Northeast or the Mid-South or, the Crockett areas, anything, and have people show up and work. And we're going to try to do that as best as we possibly can. So we're going to try to accept AEW talent. We're going to try to accept New Japan talent. We're going to try to accept WWE talent. And anybody that we can have the opportunity to work with. And because the landscape's kind of changing in all aspects, we're going to have to do some modifications. But there's people that, might be working in WWE that, if we have our eyes on the prize, we might be able to bring over to do some outside work for us. So that's going to be kind of a focus to try to get everybody working with us and not taking a side in the war, and instead trying to utilize the sort of renaissance, the new boom of pro wrestling to our advantage to try to make a Canadian powerhouse. And of course, we have step three, which is pretty self explanatory and would be obvious if you saw how Scott D'Amore was kind of unceremoniously let go from his position as a like chief officer of TNA, formerly Impact. And that's the Overtaker old stomping ground of TNA. No, not overtake. Crush it. Humiliate it.
Tear it down brick by brick until there is nothing left but a pile of rubble and then set it ablaze. And when the ashes settle and the smoke clears, the only standing tall upon the ruins and the ash, laughing at the ruin of everything.
Yeah, so like overtake the old stomping ground. I don't know what got over me there. So that's a goal, is obviously to make sure that we overtake TNA. That's a prime goal, whether that's taking their talent, taking their executives, taking their spot. We want to get them good. So that's the goal. That is the idea of the save. And I think it's going to be exciting because it's a fresh company for us to do whatever we want with. And we already had one event. So after recording, I'm recording this right now pretty much just after the night 2 of their Forged in Excellence event, which is a very TNA type pay-per-view event. It's kind of what you would expect. And that's fine. And we're certainly going to kind of emulate that style of wrestling. And we're going to try to take it in probably a different direction than what they're going to do. But we're going to start with that first event in the save. And it's going to be a wild departure, I think, from what they ended up doing as we kind of build our own sort of unique version of MLP. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the actual product, the actual company, see what our roster is, see what else is going on. It makes it a little unique. So, I think we're going to start with alliances, because that's the first thing. Again, we're trying to emulate the real-world version of this at the start as much as possible. And part of that start is that they announced the Pro Wrestling Alliance. So this is supposed to be an open alliance, and it's pretty much only 2 very small companies that we had to add to the game. I think both of these have some type of connection to Scott. I haven't super researched it, but I saw some financial ties between him and Qatar Pro Wrestling. But the idea of this alliance is an open trading alliance that is available between these 3 companies and potentially more to share the talent across the seas and kind of build a relationship with each other. So it's Oceania Pro Wrestling in Australia and then Qatar Pro Wrestling in, well, Qatar. Obviously, Qatar is not present in this database because it doesn't have a Middle Eastern region. So we had to do some weirdness. So I apologize to any Middle Eastern viewers, but I ended up having to put them in northern India. It's not quite close, but it's the closest we could get in terms of region to get it to work. But we added them to the alliance. And so we do have this alliance. It'll be up to us whether we want to expand this and grow or whether we want to resign from the alliance and potentially try to nestle ourselves in with the 2 big dogs, or whether we want to just try to make it on our own and see if we can kind of peel off talent where we can. Size and finances, we're starting with $150,000 in the bank. Not a huge amount of cash, but it's a little bit more than we would start at our size, and that's mostly because Scott has the capital to kind of put it up a little bit more than maybe a startup would. Also, a little bit bigger than what we would be starting out at this level. This is not a local to global, but it's certainly going to be a small a tiny to medium save probably. That'll be the ultimate goal, is to try to achieve beyond TNA. So we are starting a little bit into tiny because we have some notoriety, we have some name value that allowed us to get a little bit of a head start than most companies would starting from nothing. Of course, our basically just Impact Entertainment. Same styling, so expect a lot of storylines, expect, a blend of 65% matches to 35% angles for shows when we finally get there, and then for events, 80% matches and 20% angles. And our ratings are going to be mixed 60-40 between popularity and match quality. That flips depending on, obviously, what's the better deal for us. So if we can get a Will Ospreay to pop in, that will be beneficial for us. But a very classic sports entertainment style. Again, throwback to that old Scott was comfortable booking in Impact or TNA. And again, else set up except for Forged in Excellence, which is a 2-night event. Though I think that is a little long. I have to check if it was 3 hours or 4 hours for the event. But either way, it gives us a lot of time. Do whatever we want to do. Crown some champs. Do whatever. We do have, which is the QPW Qatar champion. And there's a championship, and the champion is Classy Ali. We also have the Champion's Grail, which is this weird thing that they developed for this. Allegedly, this dated back to Ricky Dozon winning a Champion's Grail at some point, and after his passing, there was like an heirloom, and in 2011, it was revived. Kenny Omega, of all people, won a version of this at a broadcast event, or event that was never broadcasted. So technically, we have a lineage here, a very odd lineage, and we're going to use that to be swapped around. That we have set up. I have a fourth in the wings that I haven't decided when to implement, but it's going to be. It might be an alliance title, or it might be one just for us. I haven't decided yet. It's called the Commonwealth title. But for now, we have the pretty standard fare of our heavyweight, our tag team, and our women's title. The one thing to note that I'm doing a little bit different, and I thought it would be interesting, is the tag team title for MLP is a open tag team. So it can be a team of men, team of women, or a mixed tag. All can compete in that division. The rest are linked to their respective divisions, but I did test this out in a test save. There were no issues. I think in past games there were more issues with it, but in this save it didn't seem to have an issue, even though we are not an intergender company. Based on what TNA and Impact have done in the past, where they kind of danced around the edges of intergender wrestling sometimes. They've done some stuff like having, I think Tessa Blanchard was the heavyweight champion at one point. It's just our way to kind of dabble our toes in there. It also gives us an opportunity to not have to hire an immense amount of tag wrestlers just for a division, because we can kind of mix it up. So I'm actually excited about that, because I think it's going to have some interesting combos and opportunities that can happen there. And of course, we have our roster to go over. So let us look at what we have. And this is going to be, I think, your homework as viewers. Small roster. I mean, it's actually not too small, but it's basically everybody that has wrestled at that first show, minus a handful, I think. People that just weren't in the database, or I couldn't find. Like El Reverso's not here as far as I can find him, unless he has an alias that I'm not aware of, and I looked up known aliases and I couldn't find them. And there might be a few others that I'm missing that I have not added, either because I couldn't find them or I just didn't put them on there and I forgot about them. And obviously our goal will be to add more. We're going to run it lean, but again, the goal is to primarily look for Canadian talent. We're not going to exclusively hire Canadian, because that would be way too difficult. But certainly the long-term goal is to take Canadian talent, build them up, and elevate them. And that's an area I'm not super familiar with. I'm not super well versed in the Canadian wrestling scene. Obviously, being from northeast, the northeast of the United States, I know some that kind of have come over from time to time, but not a huge amount. And being able to kind of learn and add some people in and kind of learn their gimmicks, I think it's going to be kind of fun and something we haven't done on this channel. So going through the list, we have Aiden Prince, we have the Sauce, Alex Zane, we have Athena from Ring of Honor. Now, Athena is, I think, on a regular contract, but some people we put on like a very short-term contract. I think she probably would have been short-term, but I'm just going to keep her because we're going to keep her because we need a really strong lead in the women's division, I think. And Athena's certainly going to be one of like the several that are going to help us out there. We have Aurora T, Bhupinder Johar. We got Brent Banks. We got Bully Ray, unfortunately. We have Classy Ali, again, technically from QPW, but doing a small stint here. I think we have plans for him. I have to see how he does. We had to add him into the database. Darren McCarthy, Don Callis on commentary and also being a manager. ELP, Gazelle Shaw, Cinder Singh, Harley Cameron, again, probably a short-term one, but we might see how she does and keep her around. I'm also going to be looking for, talent that also are sort of British Commonwealth former. So Australians are going to be beneficial because we have that Oceania Pro relationship, but British wrestlers as well are going to be people that we might lean into because, this is a Canadian promotion and that kind of makes sense to me. Jake Something, The Swingman, Josh Alexander, Kevin Knight, his tag partner Kushida, Takeshita, Kylie Ray, Laney Luck, which I think is Kylie Ray's old tag partner. Mara Ranallo is going to be on our announced team with Don Callis when Callis is around. Callis might pop out from time to time to, do some manager work. Mackenzie Mitchell is going to be, I believe, a interviewer for us. Mike Bailey. Psycho Mike, who should just win all the belts. Miyu Yamashita. QT Marshall, for some reasons here. Raj Deshi, formerly known as Jinder Mahal, is here. The most well-known Canadian wrestler outside of Bret Hart, clearly. Raj Singh, Rocky Romero, Rohit Raju, Sam Laterna, who can also do color for us. I believe she's a ring announcer, but also seems like would be a good interviewer. So we already have an interviewer, so we might sub her into commentary as well. We'll have to see. Obviously, we have us, Scott, Sheldon Jean, Stu Grayson, Taylor Rising, and Trevor Lee. So, a small roster, one that may not to run 2 full 4 hours, especially with what we want to do. So we're going to be looking for people. We're certainly only have 2, which is Rogue Squadron and the Jet Setters. A couple more tag teams. So, that's going to be kind of your homework before we get to episode 1 is let me know tag teams from Canada that you think would be good gets. Wrestlers from Canada that you think could be sort of future stars for us, or just people that you think you would want to see in this promotion at all. So I'm looking for everybody. We're not going to hire a massive amount of people. It says we have 31. I think we actually have something closer to 26 because there's some like non-wrestler characters I think count to this. So we need a few more, I think, to round things out. Maybe like 2 tag teams and then a small handful of other wrestlers, men, women, whatever we can find that can fill out the roster a bit. I think we probably need two women and maybe 3 men, let's say. We are going to look at creative right here. Actually, no, we're going to look at what what this looks like. So what we can see right now is our loose affiliation with AEW's really holding us up here and kind of keeping us afloat with Athena and Takeshita Will they be around for long? Probably not. You know, we have to look at what the price is and how much they cost for us. But short term, certainly going to be helpful. But we have Josh Alexander, El Phantasmo, and Kushida. Kushida also, not really what I would call an MLP stable person, but probably is going to cost significantly less than Athena and Takeshita. This is a problem. We got nobody yet, but haven't run an actual show yet. So eventually, as we get some momentum, I think that'll help. Aurora Teeves actually is a dark horse for future success. Or no surprise, Bully Ray, who I think if we keep around is probably going to be more likely to be a manager than our active participant. Because boy, if you saw those two matches, what stinkers. Harley Cameron also can do both, so a good get. But again, having 3 people ostensibly being AEW people, not good for us. We need to kind of fix that. A game issue. Yamashita, though, El Phantasmo and Kushida, all people that we can lean heavily on. To no surprise, Josh Alexander, a ring general, and certainly somebody that in short term probably is going to be the face of our company. At least until we develop somebody else, and clearly, Psycho Mike. Did I say Rocky Romero? I don't remember. Rocky's here too, because he's everywhere. You name a company that Rocky Romero is not in, somehow he's there. Nobody, because we haven't run a show yet. And of course, look in the area. DeForo's twin. Oh God. I don't want to hire them. Someone's going to tell me to hire them. I'm going to have to hire them, aren't I? Okay, so the bunny, who's still active in this, which sounds great to me. Jesse V, who I have no familiarity with. Maibach Beta, same. And Logan Reed, not familiar with. So let me know if any of them would be good pickups. Or the Voros twins, Da Vinci kids are a good tag team for us to pick up. Let me know, and I will believe you. So I hope you're being sincere and honest and not just flooding my comments with that request. But let me know if any of these guys or anybody else that is out there, we can add them in. But other than that, that is sort of the basics of our episode 0 of our new save on the channel. I want to know what you guys are thinking about. Do you like the idea? Are you excited about it? Do you know a lot about Canadian wrestling? And can you help me out? Because you could join the inner circle of the sort of writer's room for this by joining the Discord. Go into the description, take a look, enter, join the community. If you know a lot about Canadian wrestling, would certainly be somebody that would be very helpful to me as we kind of go through here and try to make Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling the dominant Canadian wrestling promotion. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.